Welcome back, parents. We are in our three-step process of how to connect with your child at the heart level, and this is step number 3. So step number 1 was to allow and identify your child's feelings. Number 2 was to honor his feelings by listening attentively. And step number 3 is to validate and empathize. Now, we talked about empathy as being your attitude through the whole process, which it needs to be. You need to have an empathetic attitude through all 3 steps. But in this particular step, we're going to actively show our child that we empathize. So, first of all, we want to remember that this whole process is somewhat counterintuitive. So it's going to take a conscious effort to do this. But once you get the first 2 steps out of the way, those are the hardest, because that's when you have to resist your natural response or your automatic responses that we have that are not helpful. And so once you get this far, it should be a lot easier than to finish out the process, because at this point your child's calmed down, you're seeing that he's responding positively and that your efforts are actually working. And so when you get to this point, it should be quite a bit easier. So this is the point where you're going to connect with your child. The first 2 steps, you've kind of opened the way. You've let him see that you're available, and you've kind of paved the way for you to actually move in and make that connection through empathy. So this is the step where you actually get to respond. Up until now, you haven't said much. You've asked him, what's going on, and you've listened. You've identified his feeling and you've listened, but you haven't really given much input yet. And that's the way you want it. You want the first 2 steps to just encourage him to express. And so now you get to respond, but how you respond is key. We want to avoid, like the plague, logic, advice, or judgment, okay? So remember that feelings are not right or wrong, they just are. And so you're not trying to fix anything, you're just trying to connect. And so what you're going to do is, as you're listening, once you've listened and understand what your child is communicating, let's say the emotion is frustration. Your response is simply going to be something that identifies with that emotion. And so the most basic response can be something as simple as, and 90% of the time, this is all you have to do. You say something like, "Wow, it sounds like you're really frustrated," or it could be, "That's a really frustrating thing to deal with," or "You must be so frustrated." I mean, that's it. You don't have to say much more than that. And then your child will probably continue to talk after that, and you just continue to listen, and you continue to respond with that empathy, like, "I understand what you're feeling, and I hear that you're struggling." Then when you say that, you're giving your stamp of approval. You're not judging and saying, "Well, you shouldn't be frustrated," or "That's a simple thing to fix." And those are all judgmental statements that make the child feel like they're wrong for having their feelings. So when you just say, "Wow, that is really frustrating," you're agreeing with his emotion. You're giving your approval. And approval is the number one thing that kids want from their parents. And so this is a huge way, because you're dealing with their heart. And when you approve of what's going on in their heart, that is huge for a child. And so we're not trying to fix anything. Yes, and you want to be very careful not to sabotage your efforts up to this point, because if you open your mouth and the wrong thing comes out, then all your efforts to this point have been wasted. So beyond just empathizing with the emotion by identifying it and honoring it as it just is, and you get it, you can share if your child's really struggling, or he seems to be stuck, or he needs more, if it's a really traumatic situation. If you have experienced something similar, you can share your experience. But you have to be careful that you do this with I statements. Never say you, because then he feels like you're judging him or you're trying to fix him. or something of that nature. So you would want to share, I remember a time that I felt very frustrated, and it helped me when so you don't even have to use that second part. If the child needs advice or he needs help, you can say, when I'm frustrated, it helps me to take a walk or just to walk away or whatever it is. But be very, very careful about giving instruction or advice. Really, you just need to connect with the feeling, let them know that you understand it, and you can just say, I know that's really frustrating. I felt frustrated when. Older kids, maybe teenagers, will be more receptive to your experience. It'll be more helpful, but you also have to be even more careful with teenagers because they'll shut you down really fast if they feel like you're lecturing or giving advice. And so then you just want to end with a hug, or if your child's not a huggy person, or they're just they're done, you can just say, well, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm here if you need to talk anymore. And that's it. It's so simple. And our kids just learn how to walk through emotions, and they don't get stuck in them, and they realize that emotions are a normal part of life and that negative things happen. I heard one life coach say once that you just got to get used to the idea that you're going to be happy about 50% of the time, and you're not going to be happy about 50% of the time. That's just the way life is. And so as you allow your child's expression and identify his emotions, as you honor his emotions by listening, and as you validate and empathize by hearing what he's saying and speaking it back to him and identifying with it, you're gonna grow so much closer every day. And all of the emotional upheaval that you used to deal with is gonna go away, because now you're working through it instead of trying to suppress it and trying to fix it. And your child just pushes, screams louder and louder to be heard. And this process is going to help you do that. So I can't wait to hear your feedback on how it works for you. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the Q&A, and I'll get back with you on those. But good luck and God bless. I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to go over some of the benefits, what to expect next, and things of that nature. Talk to you soon.